do this. I am not totally set up, but we're gonna do it together today because I think we're gonna need this together here a bit. So I'm gonna run through my pre-market analysis with you. Alrighty, 5 and so we got overnight highs all the way up here, which is now all-time highs in the NASDAQ. Which is gonna be right there, 25525. And then we're gonna go down here, which is our close yesterday was here. So basically overnight lows is yesterday's close-ish. So we're gonna look to close that gap up. Overnight low there. Previous day high is right in here at 17,125.75, and the low of yesterday is this tick here at 944. So I'm gonna get those levels together, type them up for you kind of quick. News headlines are chip makers yesterday. I wasn't on yesterday. We had an interesting morning. Seemed like we sold off from these highs, bumped off at key level, and then took off to the races. The reasoning apparently is the chip sectors, and let's see what I'll read it out loud for you. I had it here. It was this one. News didn't load. That's always good. Will it load now? It worked on my phone. There we go. S&P ends near record highs as AI optimism lifts the chip makers. Semis rise as TSMC is bullish on AI demand. And that was really what kicked off this whole big rally that we have here. My thoughts on all this, moving back to here, it's the overnight session. We were at previous all-time highs down here yesterday. We closed around that level here. All-time highs were still this yellow dash line. In the overnight session, we rallied straight to that all-time high level, 17,165, and then we just kind of bounced around it until right around midnight, and then we continued to rally on. The sell-off didn't start happening until 7 o'clock this morning. Didn't get any new news. The data that came out, or that's coming out Friday, it comes out at 9, and that's the Michigan consumer sentiment. If that comes in a little hot, I would expect this to kind of roll over. So that might be something that we look to position ourselves for come that time. We're going to have to wait and see on that. Right now, it is likely a wait and see. However, I think a good play off of these levels is maybe they try to flush the high and roll it over. If not, they might just try to sell it off pretty quick just to get back to here. Market session participants don't normally like overnight new all-time highs. So that's my pre-market thought process on it. The S&Ps, I guess they sort of made all-time highs. Did they make it there or not? Let's see. I think they tick it on the overnight. No, they did not. So the S&Ps on the overnight did not make all-time highs and rolled over. NASDAQ did, and they are also rolling over. So expect a little bit of a pullback here. We're opening above VWAP, which is obviously what's going on here. You can see it. I'm going to get a couple more things typed up. Just give me a second, and then we'll go from there. So yesterday's high was this tick here. Yesterday's high, 17,125.75. 125.75. Yesterday's low was this tick here, which was 942.50. Settlement. Yesterday's settlement was. I don't have Well, 17,110. And the overnight high I said was 17,255.25. 17,255.25. And then the overnight low is 17,106.75. 17,106.75. These are rough, but pretty much accurate. And this is Friday. 119. 4 levels. Copy these. I'm putting these into TradeCaster alerts. So you have those levels just to keep an eye on. I could structure that a little better. So now you could definitely see we opened up. We're starting to roll over. The first minute candles basically all but done. That opening range breakdown is a possible good trade. However, this is that opening range there, and it's a little bit wide. You know, it's a $300 risk, and you're gonna need a pullback to it first, I think, before you're gonna want to get an entry in to get short. Like I said, all-time highs don't like to be made in an overnight session, and we have down to 17,165.25. That's the level that's gonna flush. 6525. I'll give you a little box here. It's gonna be this area that it's gonna want to kind of play with there, right? You can see it overnight. It's probably exactly this level here. Bounce off it, bounce off it, bounce off it, break through it, bounce off, bounce off, bounce off, break through it. You know, we're gonna play with this level quite a bit. So that's what I'm looking at today, and then we're gonna go from there. There we go. The initial stuff, like, also it's a Friday. I am not huge on giving back Friday, anything on Friday on an early just grab go. Really not looking to do something like that. So I really want to see what happens in this few minutes to begin this to the day, because as I said, it doesn't like to make all-time highs or leave weak highs on an overnight session. We had a retest a couple times here of this level, so maybe we retest it again before we come back and totally settle out overnight all-time highs, just because they might want to clean this up first. And then if we break out, then we have just green skies. I have one 17,700. There's an arrow I drew up here. I think it's 600 actually. 17,600-ish. 517. 17,517. I drew this arrow up with a Fibonacci extension tool probably a couple weeks ago at this point now. That would be the 61% extension above the previous high, which could be a potential target for that final push to the upside. Did I think we were going to get there now? Obviously, I drew the arrow over here, but that was more like a daily, just place it out there for my reference, just in case we do get like a blue sky breakout, and you have some sort of semblance of an idea of what you're looking at when it comes to that. Microsoft's opening down a little bit, but that's, you know, a bit much to, you know, based on the rally. Apple also just middle of the range. We did get those chip sector. I'm going to put that in the note here. I love that this news doesn't like to load on every click. It just loads whenever it feels like it. Nope. All right, I'll figure that out later. I can add it later. But if you just go into your trading view, or if you go to Market Watch or any of those, you could read over the news that stated that the chip makers yesterday, they're kind of rallying off of that. One chip maker in Taiwan, I believe it was Taiwan, the largest chip maker, and then all these tech sector heavy, NASDAQ heavy names rallied pretty much all day. So we're going to look to see if that's the the catalyst to kind of just give this to be a blow off top? Is it going to recover and just relax? Are we going to chop around today because it's a Friday and, all that? As far as earnings go for today's Friday, you had Ally Bank, Travelers Insurance, Comerica Bank, not some of the bigger names. Yesterday you had a few, KeyBank, M&T. We had Discover on Wednesday. Defaults were up, which was interesting to me. That's just telling us a little bit about market weakness and consumer weakness, not being able to pay their bills. We did get the pullback to VWAP, and now we're kind of sitting on the downside still. This is the bottom end of the opening range. That rotation back to the high of the opening range could set us up for a short. However, it is below VWAP, but we do have all this inventory from overnight that might want to get cleaned up. My whole strategy is based off of fading ranges and using key structure levels and liquidity zones to find cheap opportunities, right? As far as cheap opportunities, I mean just super limited risk. I do consider myself, I guess, a scalper in that sense, where I would love to get into a scalp type trade and then trail it out as a swing. That would make your, those are your home runs. Most of the time I'm in and out in few minutes, just based on my trailing rules. And this account size at the moment, just trying to grow it slowly. So we're pushing back to the VWAP again, middle of this opening range. Not a lot of information for me to gather to decide on a move. Really, you're looking at some liquidities here. If you're looking at something like this area where there was buyers and sellers competing to kind of either push it up above and hold it above, and then coming down trying to reject that zone. So if we come back into that zone, then I'll look to see, are we going to hold above it and then break those all-time highs, or are we going to fade this zone, the point of control area, and then rotate back to the downside? But those are the kind of opportunities where you'd like to, limit your risk a bit. I don't really like to enter middle of the range. I don't like to enter something where I'm not being able to know if I'm right away and to be able to cut my loss. Because if I enter here, where am I really wrong, right? And I'm not, you could get stopped out there, but that's like a target for, right, with all that liquidity there. It's a target for price to just run to, so that's just asking to get stopped out. Going through a low liquidity area to go run right to prices where there's been more buying and selling, that would be a crappy stop for me, right? And then just above that, maybe it runs, but there's plenty of orders up here telling me that this is not quite a cheap trade yet. Yes, could it roll over from VWAP? It could, but I don't use VWAP as an entry criteria. I just use it as a confluence, and sometimes I use it as a target. And sometimes you'll see me take a trade at VWAP, but it just happens to be there, and it lines up with a few other levels in my confluence. When the NASDAQ, NASDAQ, S&P, when they make all-time highs overnight, they don't like to stay there. Yes, Aunt Maximus.
Two Transformers.
Go ahead, go get 2 Transformers. Kids and streaming. You never know when they're going to come in. Funny little guy. But, back to the trades. Like I said, still right in the smack middle of that opening range. Yeah, I don't need to take this trade here. There's nothing to enter into here. Trying to get something up here. Friday, slow open. Price has stayed within this 60 tick range, really, for the last, foreseeable, or the last, we're at 840. We've only pushed down and then right back into that range. So, the last 10 minutes, the whole day, we've been just sitting right in this range. Market watch. I'm going to check some news. Wayfair lays off 1650 after CEO told employees to work harder. Apple's stock sentiment has been sour, but there may be a silver lining. Inflation is far from dead. Asset manager doubts that the U.S. could hit 2%. Secret behind stock market record highs. Critical information for the U.S. trading day. Don't miss out. $1 per week. No thanks. Yeah, so I set my my volume profile to the daily. It does include overnight session. However, once the open market session overtakes the volume, then the profile adjusts pretty. It adjusts pretty quick, but it does include the overnight session. And this overnight session is kind of important to me as well to have it on there because of we're at the all-time highs. We're in a zone where I don't have key levels from the past to rely on for my sort of executions. So having the volume profile from the overnight helps me understand where some of these orders were, right? You could see some of these blocks where the higher volume orders were coming in. So yeah, it includes just, overnight on, and then it resets every day. And then on my trading view, I have the volume profile and it's set for every day. So you can see where point of control was for the previous day, volume area high, volume area low. And then I do also have the weekly VWAP on here to show how far extended from the week we are, right? So our week starts here, price mostly spent its time down in this range, and then we've kind of rocketed out. This is one standard deviation, and we're a second standard deviation out on the VWAP. So a lot of times it doesn't quite like to stay up in these areas as well for a long period of time. So I do like to mean revert back down. If we can get that flush below the overnight low or the previous all-time high at 165, that could get us to lead to a rotation back down to at least one standard deviation back before the week is done. So that's what I'm looking at as far as my volume profile here. $75% long on the tilt, Top Steps tilt meter. We're in this little liquidity zone there. It could be a grab above the session high. I might look to take a short below this candle here because of the liquidity grab. But if we can get into my zone there, that would be more ideal. If we get in here and show some sort of rejection, show some rejection from this level. There's a value area high there from the overnight session as well. So you're going to have some rejection here. You'll be able to get a better idea, but there's that flush already. S&P's is trying to reject the 815.50 level. That's a pretty important level for the S&P's. We're still in a no man's land for myself, right? I drew out this little zone there. That's the previous all-time highs. I was considering going short at the top there. Limits your risk, but I do think that we could rotate. You do have this whole zone, including that as the real liquidity zone. So this little not quite getting there could lead you to getting in. And then you have all this liquidity here as well. But that candle, that rejection, was pretty important. But if you see if we get a divergence here off of this zone again, if you get like a flush of the all-time high, clean it up a little bit, you could get that rotation back to the high, clean up that again, and then see what happens from there. We don't have any new news that's telling me that it wants to roll over either. this would just be a pure technical trade. Where's that Apple chart? Apple is pushing up to the upside. What it did was it opened with no gap. So it just stayed in its little liquidity zone here and popped back up. It might want to look to clear out some of those overnight inventory levels there. Let's see what Microsoft's doing. Microsoft pushing down on the lows and basing out at the bottom here on the 5. Tried to flush it once, didn't hold. Now it's holding 394s, which is yesterday's pretty much high, close and high. So it closed its gap that it opened with, and now it's looking to continue to rally, possibly. So we do have a bounce off the bottom from Microsoft, Nvidia, also bouncing. So it's going to push our NASDAQ up a bit. Google also pushing up. Tesla also pushing highs, but that's overnight highs that it wicked, and now it's looking to recover. Microsoft back there. I'm going to use that as the leader here, although Apple did kind of crush it. Chart looks a lot more similar than to the NASDAQ at the moment. I usually use Apple. Microsoft took over in market cap, so it's possibly going to be more of a leader. It was leading more the rest of the week, so I like to use that as the key leader. Friday. If you thought I was picky during the rest of the week and took very limited trades, then you're going to be disappointed, because Fridays is, for me, I have to force myself to be more picky because it tends to be my nemesis. If I end up over trading, I usually give back my week on a Friday, right? And so that's my goal moving forward, knowing the days that I tend to overtrade or I tend to give back profits. So I will try my best to not overtrade. And Deck put out an alert for 10 a.m. Eastern time for the Nvidia wedge break. So we are looking at that as far as 10 Eastern, 9 o'clock for the consumer sentiment number to come out. That number is going to give you an algo move. So if you are in or you're not in, adjust your trading appropriately, because like I said, it is a Friday. It is a red folder number, so you are going to get some movement on it. Depending on where we are on the chart, if you're already in a trade, you'd have to mitigate your risk. If you're not in a trade and you're understanding of what that number brings, as far as what do you think about when it comes to a number, right? It is a algo mover for the initial move, right? And it's just going to do whatever it does. But really, macroeconomically, you have to think, all right, this number says what? We can walk through it quick. Michigan Consumer Sentiment number. I'll put it over here. Michigan Consumer Sentiment Preliminary. It's not even the actual number. University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment for the U.S. was revised higher to 69.7 in December from a preliminary of 69.4, hitting the highest reading in 5 months and amid substantial improvements in how consumers view the trajectory of inflation. So this is the way people like you and me who are buying things view expectations of inflation and basically how you're spending your money. So expectations for inflation in the upcoming year dropped to 3.1% from November's 4.5%, marking the lowest level since March of 2021. If this number comes in high again, right, if it's going to go up above and beyond what this is, then maybe the Fed has, you think of these numbers as how the Fed's thinking of them, because that's how realistically the market's going to get priced in. So if you think this is good for the consumer and consumers think that inflation is going to go down and everything's going to be honky-dory, then they're going to continue to spend their money. Then the Fed's going to say, hold on a second, maybe we don't need to cut rates come March, because that consumer still wants to spend their money, and they think that inflation is going to get lower on its own, and maybe it's not going to do that, right? So that's going to continue to make the Fed see that there's improving economic conditions with tightened economic policy, and those two don't kind of work out. So realistically, the Fed would like to hold higher for longer, and that kind of shock would push this market to the downside. Even though it's a positive number, the consumers think that the market's doing great, everything's doing great, that positive number leads to the Fed thinking that they can hold higher for longer in order to try and get that confidence level down a bit, get people to stop spending money, to get their inflation to that target rate of 2%. And that's what that algo is looking when it reads whatever that number comes out. So if that number comes out hot, expect that initial, fall off the table kind of move, and then, you'll probably get a rebound from it later on. But, being at all-time highs, that's the only thing I could expect. If that's what you're anticipating, you'd have to set your orders and your stop pretty tight kind of quick, because you don't want to be wrong and it wick you in and then dump you out, and you just blow out your account just because of a news event. If you could withstand some pressure, maybe size down. If you normally trade up a little bit bigger, it's not worth the risk of the opposite happening to blow out your account to just make a little bit on the other way side. I do trade news events and stuff like that. It just has to be, I have to already be in a really optimal position as far as risk to reward to even think about starting to put that order in and enter it. So this push up to the upside beforehand may get me to be in a position to set up that short trade just in case I think that consumers come in hot. But you'll notice that if it gets there. If it doesn't get there, I can't enter middle range at VWAP for a news event, right? Because then where do we have to go for this to get liquidity? Oh, we might go here on the first initial move, pump us down, get us in, and then whip us back to the upside, grab some liquidity there, stop us out. I know some people that put order above, order below, get triggered in, get stopped, get triggered in, get stopped, and then they're down double what they would have been if they just would have sat on their hands, let the market settle down with the algorithms, and then trade the real move that happens afterwards. So these are the kinds of things I think about while I'm sitting here staring at this candle do nothing for just about an hour, right? We, even as much as you think we've gone somewhere, we are pretty much, we opened opening range, open, went to the highs, went to the lows, broke the lows, went to the highs. Now we're just here. This is the range, the old 70-point range, which is nice to limit risk as far as if you want to play a break of either side. But you have to know why you're playing the break of either side, and you have to understand your risks coming into the news event.
PTSD.
8:53. We got 7 minutes. It's 8:53 Central Time. Anybody watching Eastern Time? It is almost 10 o'clock. Most of these numbers are going to be released on that Eastern Time. I don't have my thing set to change it to Central Time, so it's not changing. Let's see where we're at here. Microsoft also pushing up a little. We got the rejection of that all-time high on that push down when we did push down. So that initial push down to that bottom half bounce play to clean up the highs. Really, like, you have to have a thought process on what the thought is here to move it to the upside, and what the thought at the top would be to move it to the downside, and what would be the catalyst to break us out of this high, right? What's going to push us up to these all-time highs, past these new all-time highs, right? What are the scenarios that could happen, and then limit your risk and play the level how you see fit. If you see a fade, just limit your risk. If you see a breakout, limit your risk to the downside. 17,210 in the middle of this chopped city. Thinking about this number, existing home sales 382, previous 383 is forecast. Previous 0.8%, forecast is 0.3%. The existing home sales, I think, is just really, I think that's a negligent number because it's just people are buying houses. It's just kind of how it is. I don't think it's going to have a ton of implement. I think this consumer sentiment is more of a number that they'll look at. I need to see what happens at this area here. I choose this zone just based on the way price action reacted on both sides of it. And then obviously we have that all-time high now, the overnight high. I want to see it cleaned up really before I want to go short, just because I don't like when it leaves those highs on an overnight session. I don't think markets do like that very much. Maybe you do have this little downtrend going on here that was broken. If you have any ideas, you could always type it into the chat. Like I said, right now I'm being very patient, waiting for this news release to come through and give us the algorithm whippy movement before I can even decide, hey, what we're doing. Especially because my closest range, we're exactly in the middle of the areas that I was really interested in. This area I am interested in only if it sets up later, you know what I mean? I don't really like it as just like a on its own, get to it and short it or get through it and go long. It's just information for me. This number being right in the middle of the range, I have no desire to want to execute here. Yeah, great. If I put in a short order here and it runs my way and it continues to go on, that would be fantastic, right? But that's not the name of the game of trading. It's not gambling. It's not get in and hope that the move is going to go in your favor. It's see what happens, adapt, adjust your plan, and just limit your risk. If you can't limit your risk on a trade, then don't take it, because obviously that's, you can get lucky 10, 11, 12, 13, 100 times, and then the 101st time you lose all your money because you're gambling. And I don't want to do that. I want to be the guy who is able to, maybe I'll take smaller profits, especially early on in this stream and stuff like that, but you're at least going to get a consistent plan every single time, right? So we're pushing back up. We push down a little. We push back up a little. We didn't ever get to, like, if we were in this range during the number release and maybe we wicked above it, if I saw like a really quick whip above it and I set an order below and we rolled, that would be the play. But we're not there. We're here. And I can't enter here. So this is the kind of thing that you need to think about on your own so you don't start losing your money. If you make your money and you have a plan about it, then cool. I'm down with that. You can make all the money you want. Totally down with it. But not me. Not on a Friday. 0 seconds. There's that pop up. And home sales -0.1, -1%. Previously at 1. At 8. Existing home sales 3.78 million. Consensus was 3.82, so that's good for the Fed cutting. Michigan's consumer sentiment was 78.8. Consensus was 70. previously at 16. I think that's negative. So let's see what happens. $78 over 70. That's a pretty big number there for consumer sentiment. We might clean up the highs and then get the actual push to the downside. Let's be careful. Be careful thinking that's a long. That's an algo rip. That was beautiful in that entry there, if you could catch that. But look, this could be just catch some liquidity, stop you out below the bottom here, and then look to run it up again. I want to clean up these highs before I get an entry. You got to let some of this data kind of soak in with everybody. To me, that sentiment number coming in hot leads me to believe that we're probably going to get a sell-off at some point here. The home sales thing held us up a bit. The first two releases were the home sale numbers, so that did push us. But the consumer sentiment being so high is really interesting to me. The market just also wanted any sort of excuse to go long, right? That's just another thing. If the consumer sentiment is so high, then everybody's like, "Oh, this is great. The economy's still doing good. We can keep pushing this to the upside." People aren't buying houses, so that could lead to the rate cuts. So it's just kind of interpretation of numbers. How do these? Microsoft didn't react at all. Apple also did not, but it's kind of diverging from Microsoft a bit and selling. If we can get another little rip into this zone here, I might look to short it if I get a divergence in my cumulative delta. And then I'm going to look to rotate it back down, hopefully through previous all-time highs, and then overnight lows. So, but I need that push again. I'm looking for that A+ setup. I'm not looking for a emotional just to enter. Holding VWAP. We're at this liquidity zone, and now we're flushing it. So now we're in this area here. We're holding the wedge, holding the bottom of this. As much as it looks like it's been wicked out a bunch, it's held. So we're holding this area. Probably going to look to push up to the high again there. But you're also pushing up, and the delta is sort of also doing the same thing. So there's a little bit of confluence there. It's not huge. It's not diverging much. Although this is now trying to push these highs, and you can see the delta here, not so much. And now it's actually flipping to the negative side. So if we do flush that high there, I'll look to set an entry below this zone to get that actual move to the downside. I think this could be a liquidity grab here. I want it to get a little tiny bit higher for me to enter. Come on in. It needs to get in here, maybe even wick the high before I can limit my risk to the top end of this zone. But I don't want to enter now because I think there's still a chance that we could flush all these levels, clean up that all-time high, that overnight high, and then give you the flush. So this is what I'm looking at here. I'm thinking tilt is 72% long, which is, I don't like that it's getting longer. Get over that the value area high there at 227, and then we're going to look to short it. It has slowed down from that number release, right? We got that whippy move to the upside, came back down, cleaned it up, returned back to where we were, and now we're looking to probably sell off here. So that divergence break, we're making newer lows, not quite get there yet. So that's an important thing to note that you're probably going to get your short here. I actually probably should have entered on this entry into the zone, but I did not. I missed that a little bit. And then once again, like I'm not going to chase this short here because it breaks this trend, because it's in the middle and it's not in the zone, and that's not my entry criteria. Yes, that plays out a lot. This is an appropriate, break of a trend line, take it to the bottom half, but that's not my kind of entry, so I don't enter that. It's chopping around here. This is really not anything that convinced me yet, although the divergence is huge here. This breakdown in the delta while we were at highs told me that this should have been a sell from that zone there. So, I mean, if you just want to draw out zones and use those to your advantage, you saw me do it today, right? Live. I drew this up. I said that I'm not using it exactly as an entry criteria, but I'm using it for good information, and it acted strong again. So it's going to be good information as we move forward. Is that zone right there? There are buyers and there are sellers at that zone. There's a battle there. Sorry, coughing in your ear. So it looked like we're going to try and flush this little channel here. We got that breakdown. We made new lows on the delta. We're still way up high, so we have that divergence there. We're holding VWAP at the moment. I do not like to take the breakdown because I don't know. This is the middle of a range, right? I needed to get short up here, or either down here. I needed to take that bounce play or the flush through here. I wanted to get in if this broke above 27. Then I was going to set my stop order here and get in and get out. This is me keeping myself out of a good trade. Again, I kind of talked you through what my thought process was on getting into this if it got back to here. I had everything but the price getting up a little bit higher. And that's been keeping me out of some good winners this past week. So maybe moving forward next week or even for later today, I might look to front run one of my entries just to see how it plays out. I've stayed out of some pretty good trades just based on having that final criteria of the price making another push up. We've been kind of getting to my liquidity zones and running away from them. So if you took that trade, good. You really don't have any reason to get out at all. We need to break down from this previous high. I put it as a zone because there is liquidity here from the overnight. However, the previous all-time high is right there. And if you flush that, then you should continue to push to the downside. If you reject this and continue down, your overnight low is this red line here, and that's really what we probably want to clean up. So good on you if you took that entry. I hope you did. Probably not, just because I might have talked you out of it. But that's a great trade for a Friday, right? If you would have just took it from there to overnight high, to previous all-time high, that's $1,000 move for one contract. So that's what we need to look at for trades. That's how you need to talk yourself through them. You need to execute eventually. But that's, I'd say for me, right? You can see it's a Friday. I do like to have my confluences there in order to take my trade. And I'm not giving any money back on a Friday, especially early on in this streaming adventure that we're doing here. I'm really trying to prove the discipline and the limited entries is the better plays, right? That could have been our trade for the day. That should have been probably my entry. I still had limited risk even if I entered. I just didn't want to get run over on that next little push up because it tends to like to do that for liquidity, right? If I would have set my entry here and we got ticked in and then rolled over, that's just me proving bad habits, right? So I'm trying to continue my good habits, and you'll catch the good trades here and there, but sometimes you miss them. And I've shown a few times this week missing a few trades, talking them through. We're just gonna keep. Also I didn't put this on, so I would have only got it on my regular account anyway. So I'm turning on my trade copier. I use my Express funded account. I'm in a 100K account. I have a couple 50K combines that I copy, and I'm gonna use obviously the entries for the Express to just kind of let those 250Ks get funded as well. So using the leverage of the copier while I have it. So we're in this chop zone from last night. You had all this from last night. It's got to get cleaned up before it really wants to flush, I'm sure. But that move right there, you get that big wick from the news, the algo rip, the actual number contradicted the move to me as far as what would the Fed do, right? We talked about before the number came out. We said that if that consumer sentiment number comes in hot, that's a sign that the Fed says, hey, consumers think that the market's too strong. We're going to hold rates higher for longer. You get the housing sales and stuff to come in lower, which is good for, getting that rate cut. So you kind of push up. You don't get that full push. You don't get that big algo, 100-point rip from a number. Then that sentiment number comes out. You chop a bit, and then you start to roll over. We returned back because the algos were done doing what they were doing. We got kind of back up to where we were, and then we rolled over in congruence with that sentiment number. So now you have to ask yourself, while price is playing out and doing what it does, when it gets to these certain levels, what new information does the market know, or what information are they going to try and price into this future? This is a futures contract, right? So what is going to happen in the future? Where do they think price is going to go? And what makes them believe that we need to be at all-time highs right now? And what they, if a big banker was coming in and you were on the floor and they're saying, hey, why is price going to be at all-time highs? Why should we be buying up here? Do you think that price will be higher in the future? How much higher do you think we can go from here? And then you as the analyst or you as the trader have to say, okay, this is why. If we get over here, if we get above 17,255, that we should probably get to 17,600 by February, the middle of February. Okay, so then go ahead and buy through the high. If you don't believe that that's the case, if there's, maybe we're going to get some crazy no cut or a rate hike. So all these people are in and they're, buying at these crazy high numbers, and they're going to be in from here come rate hike time, and that price is going to dump off, right? So you need to, position yourself to how you think that these people are going to move the markets, and then just talk yourself through why should I short here? Why should I go long here? People try to short lows and then just get run over. And people try to go, buying all-time highs. They get stopped out. Fading extremes to me is usually the best play. And that's why I stick to that strategy. I have a hard time taking breakouts of all-time highs, and I have a hard time shorting through lows or, anything like that. But at the same time, I do look at big trends. That's not what I want. I want this one here. We're in a area that the market should be able to pull back down even a bit more. 1758s, 40s, 147. That's a good target. If it cracks 147, then down it should go, because if you look here, I just drew this up. This is a 30-minute uptrend that we're in, kind of a little channel. We hit the top of that channel right up there, rolled over a bit. If we crack the bottom of this, you could expect it to roll over, probably back down to these highs. 1746. If anybody has any ideas on their trades, just type it in. It'd be cool. Oh, that was the move to take, right? As far as the short was concerned. If we had that one little bit extra confluence that I always look for is that price to get up above the value area. It accepted back into value and then rotated back to the very bottom, right? You're always looking to see, this is the volume profile, but that's the value area, right? That's where price has spent the most time. It legitimately wicked the high of it and ticked the low of that value area. And now we're rotating back again. Where do you think the target's going to be? Probably back to the high end of the value area if it's going to be a range day. If this is going to continue to be a sell, maybe we're going to hold the VWAP and then rotate back to the bottom. But that's just a wait and see. If we get back to the highs here now, then I'll anticipate this being the false breakdown, and then we're going to break the highs, clear out the overnight high, and then look to rotate back down again. Something tells me a rangy Friday is going to be a rangy Friday. It's going to just kind of continue to push around a bit. The base of this is 200. So now we're back above that 200, back above VWAP, kind of holding that break of that trend line. I need that divergence. Have a lot of notifications on here. An extension was added to my site, 257-1701. Setting up a business and I'm just getting some phone calls. I'm just checking out all this stuff. Just give me a second. I don't have an entry here in the middle anyway, so we're going to just be patient. Friday, you don't want to lose your money on a Friday. That's the biggest thing. I'm up for the week. Yes, it's a shortened week. Yes, I only traded. So Monday, Tuesday. Monday we were off for a holiday. Tuesday we traded. Wednesday we traded. Thursday I did an overtime. Work overtime overnight, didn't trade yesterday, and now we're back here today on a Friday. So really, we've traded 2 days this week. We're up 500 and change. Could be up more. You know, I had some opportunities on Wednesday that I didn't totally capitalize on. I only went up $65, but I wasn't trying to lose money, so I was very precise and quick on my entries and exits, and really I kind of saved myself from losers by getting out of those. The one trade that I could have took that was a really bigger winner happened well after I was done with my session, and being sick over the last week or so, taking care of the kids, I'll be happy with keeping this at the win for the week, right? So any trade that I'm looking to take here, I'm not trying to give back my week on, right? So on Friday I'm looking for an A+ setup. I'm looking for something that's going to seriously limit risk. Like this would have been a pretty good one to take, obviously, because it's $1,000 trade, because there was really no reason to get out, right? If you're in this and then you're gonna, once you get the VWAP, you're at break even, you flush VWAP, you're at VWAP, and then as you approach that high, you could trail it per candle, and then you'd be out down here. But I just, don't want to be entering things in the middle and get whipped around on a day that historically for me has been hit or miss. And you just got to understand that with your own data. If Fridays are great for you, then take the trades, right? Make the executions. If it's a day that you get chopped around, then stay out. It's just about knowing yourself. Like all week I've been saying, every day I kind of start off with how I'm feeling, what my previous night into the morning has emotionally led me into the charts, right? So the previous days I said my kids were sick, I didn't sleep overnight, I did overtime. Mentally preparedness for trading is what you need, right? You need to be solely focused on the mission at hand, because otherwise then you start jumping in. You're going to see opportunities, especially for me. I'm on the 1 minute chart. Really, I'm using 30-minute, hourly, daily levels. I'm executing on the 1 minute, and I'm watching price action happen. I could get triggered into entries all the time because on this short time frame. But if I'm focused and I understand what I'm looking for, I'm not looking to get in on all of these signals, right? If you get a break here and a break there, and you're going to get these candle patterns that happen on higher time frames that aren't super confirmational on this lower time frame. But being focused and being aware of your emotional state helps you be able to get in or stay out of trades that you normally would be tricked into trading, right? So I have to every day prior to trading, kind of just spell it out. What did I do? Today was a normal morning pretty much, got to bed on time, slept pretty much all night. The kids woke up here and there, but they're not as sick. My oldest went to school. I was able to bring them. I dropped them off, got some fresh air, came back. I'm able to come to the charts with a more refreshed, focused mind. So I have a little bit of an emotional edge on the day, right? I'm good. I'm not as, I haven't coughed as much into the mic. Thank you for to you guys. Hopefully it doesn't bother you, because I know it was probably bothering you during the week when I was doing it. So really, I'm just looking to get in here. If this gets back into my zone, because it was a pretty good zone before, but it needs to do more, especially if it's returning back to that zone now. We're getting back to the highs. The delta's pushing down again. Well, we're above VWAP. So for me to go, hey, we're going to short this right quick. We're so close to VWAP. We're still above it. There's a chance that it uses VWAP now as a springboard to push to the highs. Give me a second. That's a good sell there. That's a strong candle to the downside. Now that we know that that's another area of where selling wants to occur. That's what I thought. So, a lot of times I get calls. Now I have this business that I'm trying to start, so I have to answer them, or if I'm not able to answer them, I'm trying not to answer them on the stream, but nothing. I have not taken any trades, Ray. No trades yet. I wanted to get in on this one. I just didn't get the extra little push to the upside that was going to get me to trigger myself into the downside. And now we've just been chopping, really. So I do believe it is a range-bound Friday. That number didn't get us very much information. I think it was definitely enough to sell us off. However, we're not there yet, obviously. A breakdown below 166, 1-2, third touch. Look to break it down, maybe chop, see like you got to flush some of this, get a retest and a roll over. Maybe I'll look to take that short down to the overnight low, which is also going to close the close gap from yesterday. But I didn't think this was going to be a good enough entry here above VWAP. Another like middle of the range kind of deal, because this could have easily continued on to that high, and it still can. S&Ps are breaking down a little bit below 821. If you take a look at this chart here, it's trying to diddle with this little chart there. We got the NASDAQ still well above, that 30-minute breakdown of 189, 190-ish would be, it's got a hole below there for it to be a short. So right now we're kind of holding that. Slow Friday, choppy day. Fridays are my nemesis most of the time. So like I said, I'm not trying to get chopped around, lose the money that I made during the week. It's a short holiday trading week. at times people just take that week off anyway. I don't know. But for me, I think, trading so far, I've only traded, this will be my third trading session of the week. I'm looking to hold on to the money that I made and push to take that one good execution.
What is your GPA, right? Professional GPA was like 3.2.
Never a bad Friday with 100 ticks. If you can catch 100 ticks,
32 on your.
I'll take that every day of the week, baby.
Wait a second. All right, here you go. New empathetic microfocus.
Yeah, that one would have been a pretty good trade there for me. If you're catching the bounce there, I'll take that also any day of the week, baby. But now we're tightening this range. It's creating a little bit of a wedge here. It's still sort of important, but I'm gonna leave it there just for visualization.
This is for those who missed. Somebody said, this is the second one question mark, please. It is the first one.
First one, for those that missed an MISSED.
Top end of the wedge again. S&P's is right dead in the middle of its opening range. Still holding above 821. We're holding above our opening range on the NASDAQ here, so we gotta see what that's all about.
What I hear you saying is the second one, right?
I got a very choppy session here. There has been opportunities at the highs and at the lows for you to execute on entries. I've given why this, you saw me draw this up. If you were watching at all, I drew this up this morning just based on some of the overnight price action. I figured that was going to be a important area to watch. We got that number come out at 10 Eastern, pushed us right into that zone, pushed down, and then we returned right to it and sold off from there. Like I said, I was looking to get above that value area high of 227 before I set my stop order in, because I just wanted to have that belief that if it re-accepted into the zone, that it wasn't going to just rotate to the high, stop me out, then come down. So that's why I was looking for that confluence on a Friday. I don't want to be chopped around on a Friday. I know this doesn't seem like it's a very important trend line anymore, right? But it is still something where I'm just seeing how price reacts around it. I'm not using it like as an entry or anything like that. Like I said, if you look at this 30-minute S&P candle, it's interesting, right? You're getting a huge indecision candle on a 30-minute. You got one more minute left on this 30-minute candle. We're in the middle of this opening range. Right here, this is the opening range. The red line is the high. The blue line is the low. We're right in the middle of it. We looked above. We looked below. We looked back above. We're in this spot here, and there's nothing that this is telling us other than that price is really unsure where it wants to go. Same on the NASDAQ. We do have a bigger, tight little indecision candle. It is green as opposed to red, but still at the same time there's not much decision either way, right? So that's what you're getting if you're looking at a higher time frame. That's why I don't have an entry, right? Because of this kind of deal. But what it does sort of tell me is we came down to the bottom here, we wicked it with this candle, we pushed up, we wicked it again, so that's two rejections of the bottom half. Could look to rotate to the high before we do sell off. And this kind of price action here that we're getting, right? We came back down, we tested it one more time, which is the previous all-time high. We've made a higher low. We're pushing back above. If we get above here again, could we push up to that high? That, like I said, I don't believe that market session participants prefer there be left an all-time high in an overnight session. And my thought process on which will happen first is the possibility of them cleaning this high up before rotating it back down and pushing back through the bottom. Could they consider this test here at 7 a.m. that maybe they got involved pre-market. They could have, but I don't know if that's convincing enough for me to say, yeah, we should probably, ignore that. I don't ignore it. I need all the information that I can get, and I think that information is the key to my success. But we have been using this level here as a pretty good rejection point. We've been using this to about here is a zone, right? This zone is real. This zone that I drew up is more now than anything. It's this zone here. I widen it a little bit, and I'm going to put that there. You adjust zones how you feel fit. However, this seems like that's where the zone wants to be right now. Adjusting it a bit, just based on the current price action. I drew that zone up earlier based on overnight sessions. Will it still play out? Possibly, but now the way that the price has been getting to here, selling off, getting to here, selling off, getting to here, selling off, that's a more important level to me now than it was prior, a little bit higher. I was looking for this. I mean, we did get the same kind of price action into my zone before, which could have been led to the short. However, maybe I would have got myself in if I had adjusted the level earlier, but there wasn't enough information out here. Being at all-time highs and only having information from an overnight session is very difficult for me to say, hey, this level is perfect. This is a good thing to react off of. So I wait. Sitting on VWAP in the middle of a range. S&Ps have now tried to push back to the downside in this new 30-minute candle. It's 2 minutes deep, but it's already pushing below 821. Could be leading. If the S&Ps breaks the bottom end of its opening range and the Nasdaq is still at highs, then I may look to short the divergence. We do have Apple kind of grinding to the upside here, and Microsoft gotta do something better. So Microsoft's in like a low base, and if it breaks down again below 394, 394.17, 394.20, that zone there, then you could possibly see this breakdown. I think that's a good area for Microsoft short follow through, but it's also a good zone for it to bounce off of. So it's a key place to watch for Microsoft. Point of control for us, 97s. We're right there right now. Looking to break down on the delta, also looking to break down. So the S&Ps have tried to push their low of that opening range, and the Nasdaq we're still sitting at the high of that opening range. If the S&Ps start to flush, then we can look to see if this will go short side. I need some more live data on my Microsoft here. It would be great. There's Microsoft, and we got our Nasdaq there. Tilt's not really telling me much. 50-50. Now, you tell me you see opportunity right where we're at, then I would like you to explain it to me in a way that you can convince me to take a trade, because then I will. But I don't have any information telling me to take it, so it's up to you. Kind of talk it out, be interactive. Let me know if you see anything. Now, seeing that this is sort of wedging out, and we've tested this level now countless times, 2, 3. We need, and we have made higher lows, right? Higher low, equal highs. It's telling me that there's a seller here that's willing to sell. However, buyers are willing to buy at higher prices. Buyers. If we break this high, you're going to get either a whippy run. If it fails, then that's maybe the key to short. But right now, it still looks a little strong. And then the S&Ps has wicked that bottom and now has tried to push back to the upside. So you can see that here. Wicked the very bottom of that opening range. And now we're looking to go from red to green on this candle. And it's just tilting on the high end of that. So it's looking to break out. And now we're back here. And we are looking to break out to that high side now. This is if we count this as 1, 2, 3, fourth time touching this. If it doesn't break out here, is it going to be the failure? Is it going to be the rollover? This is going to be the fourth touch on it. I would really like to see it whip it for me to try and get short, right? I want it to be like, oh, we broke this seller. We got some stops involved, and then now we can roll it over. That's really what I would like to see. But the seller is pretty strong. The downside moves have gotten less and less and less, which means sellers aren't as willing to follow this through. So that's where you probably get the pop. So if you're a momentum breakout trader, this is probably your spot. I'm not a momentum breakout kind of guy. It has to be a more pure breakout setup. But if you do get that break above this point here, 219, 220, you could see that pop off to the upside for the time being, just based on the lack of follow through on the downside pushes after this seller has been at this brick wall for the whole day. Seller. If he disappears, you get that pop. You break through that, you get that pop. This last touch, we didn't get a seller to follow us through, right? VWAP has been acting as support. If this is the only follow through that you get here, then you probably don't get much. Kind of want to go long on it only with the breakout, just to show that the momentum breakouts do happen here, but that's not my strategy. And I don't like to do that kind of thing, so I'm not gonna. I just tend to, every time I tend to take a breakout, I'll trail it and it fails. Or I won't trail it, I'll let it try and run like everybody else does, and then it comes back, rolls me over, and then either continues or rolls over. So I've just had no success on breakouts for myself. I know that they work, and I just don't time them correctly, or take the right breakouts, but that's what this market just kind of seems like it wants to grind up a bit, just based on the price action here. Price is starting to speed up a little. We're getting some buyers and sellers playing along. So there is some volatility. We got it right in the middle. Usually I don't like to short this close to VWAP either. I've explained that in the past. I've taken a couple of them on the stream where I did take the short this close, and then I end up just usually taking a small win. You're not getting that follow through because the VWAP is so close, and usually if I'm trying to fade an extreme, it's this extreme here, and that extreme I'd like to take to VWAP. The VWAP would be my target, right? That would be I tend to trail out most of the time at VWAP, and if it goes further, then I try to trail further. But I can't short this close because my win would only be just as big. It's basically just trying to take a base hit that's less likely to even be a successful base hit. Come on, baby. I need you to run, baby. There's the breakout. If we get that failed breakout to the upside, then maybe the short comes into play. But I want this breakout to clear out that overnight high. That's really where I like to get it. Oh, that was a nice little whippy action, though. I didn't quite get a divergence, though, on my delta. It was congruent. It also broke out to the high. Here we go. Pushing. Micros are heavy long, but they are always a little bit heavier, I think, than the actual full minis. So just long bottoming tails in these 30 minutes just wants me to believe that this long is going to play. If you're, like I said, if you're a breakout guy, this is possibly the spot for you to take that momentum play. It should have already played out, though, a little bit. There we go, starting to push. We're getting to the top end. 227 is the high of the value area. So if you do get a break above the value area, then usually that's where the volume kicks up. You know, you're able to kind of clear out some of this lower volume, clean it up, and then rotate back in. And then when you see a rotation back into the value area, that's when you want to see the full rotation to the bottom half. There's the push above. Let's see if it holds above it or if it's going to fail. So that's the push above. Delta's congruent. We're still trying to push. You know, we didn't make these whippy all-time high. I mean, whippy highs here. That breakout didn't happen very hard. I'm gonna take one. I'm gonna take one short. Right here. I want to see this fail right now. The lack of momentum on the breakout tells me that I want to take it to the short side, so I'm going to take that short. We got a little bit of divergence on that. If it breaks out now, then so be it. I'll take the loss. There it is. Now it's going to break out because I said so, right? Roll over. Roll over. There you go. Stopped out on that. I took that purely on the lack of momentum on that breakout. We got a little bit of divergence here on this delta. However, now that we're pushing up, we're getting more confluence on it, and it's moving in the same direction. I took a shot at it. It was a small loss. 185 on the loss. Still got one more shot to take on the day, and that's all I'm going to take. There's the move down. That's a little bit more of a strong push to the downside. Do we break down from my zone here? Is the question. Take one more shot at it. Do I take one more shot at it? Right now, not yet. I want one more push above. Maybe we whip. I'd like to see a wick of that again to set an entry down below here. And that would be it. So really, the 30 minutes should have kept me out with these long, wicky bottom tails, grabbing the liquidity, pushed us up to the upside. I don't want to switch to long. It's very hard for me to take the breakouts, and I usually want to see the breakout have that momentum on the entry. And I didn't see it, so that's why I took that short to enter there on the breakdown. This is not that important to me anymore. I just have it here as, like I said, as a confluence, making new highs, almost there, but not quite at this delta level here. So it's kind of just like a lazy grind to the upside, and I don't like that. What's the Apple, Microsoft guys doing? Apple at the highs and fading, Microsoft at the lows and bouncing, but pushing to the downside again. So maybe we do get that push to the downside. We can rotate to the bottom. I really wanted them to clear out these overnight highs, but the grindiness of this doesn't help me much. I want to whip above this high here, and I want the delta divergence. This delta divergence came in hard, and I would have liked, if I had my zone drawn up like this, if I had the information that I wanted, then I would have been able to take this and been done, but I didn't have that information yet, so I'm still looking to see if I can limit my risk, if I can get one more push above here. Not quite getting it. It's a little heavier long, 69% longs. This could have been the entry here because it's the second test above and failed, but like I said, I still don't see it being the convincing move to the downside yet. This zone is pretty good though. It's something I'm going to keep in mind for moving forward. So that's a good tight risk. I would have liked to have held it a little longer. That was actually a very whippy candle to the downside. So possibly the liquidity grab to get some stops in to take the long breakout now. It didn't get the follow through that you would expect on that kind of move to the downside, right? So that seemed like the price jumped to here, sped up a little, grabbed some of this liquidity there at the bottom end of the zone, and now it looks like it's pushing up a bit stronger. We did get to the same spot on the delta, and we are pushing up again. So if we don't get that full push to the upside here, I'd be interested in seeing how this reacts. But that the way that price jumped there, I'm not sure if you would see that on another candle. That's why I do come down to the 1 minute, because really that would say, oh wow, some people would be like, look, it jumped down, it's probably want to go short, but that looked to me like it was trying to grab some sort of level here to take it to the upside. It just was a clear move of manipulation. This is probably your breakout here, and if this breakout fails, then it's going to be the rotation over.
Alright, pushing on the 30s, pushing back up here in the 30s. We better get long. A lot of people looking for a breakout right here.
And you just broke a little just above here. Did you break above here? I'm looking to go short. I don't think that was the breakout didn't happen yet. Tried to run the high, didn't get it. So I'm putting this on the value area high. The value, not the value area. There's a volume node here. I don't want to get tickled in, but I would like it to flush that volume node. All right, we're short again. Let's see if we can get the rollover this time on the failed breakout. If we get through the bottom of this zone, then we should get the VWAP. But if we don't get through the bottom of the zone, then the breakout might happen. So I'm going to trail it tight as it gets approaching the bottom half of the zone. You see that price action right there, that whip up? That was a very interesting wick move. So I'm going to stop it. Come on. I hate when it does that. I'm going to be at break even for that with that little jumpy move that it did there. All right. Now we're looking to flush. I'm a little bit... why does it do that? Okay, there we go. I'm a little bit past break even. If we get the rollover now, I'll be pretty happy. There we go. That's the breakdown we wanted to see. We're going to get it down. Hopefully we can get the VWAP. If we get to VWAP and through, it's got to hold this zone though. If it doesn't hold below the zone, obviously it's going to want to rotate to the highs. So that's why I'm trailing a little tight on this, keeping it above that candle or, a little bit at the top of the tick. So I'm looking to get to VWAP. That's my first target. If we can flush through VWAP, then that's when I'm going to move my stop to VWAP and use the rest of it as a trailing stop. So we got to get to VWAP and through it down into this volume area, maybe 193, but we're going to get stopped out here probably because that was the volume grab. There we go. Down $70 on the day. So we were able to take that to break, maybe we trailed it a little tight, but just based on the price action of the day, this kind of wick maybe looks to get another long involved before it does come short. So, we would have been, I'm cool with taking, $100 off the table there on that short. We did get a really nice little push down there, so that was a good move, good short. Just didn't get the follow through that we wanted when we wanted to get it, right? It still could happen, but just on a choppy kind of day today, and now all of a sudden this appears, like something like that, where it's been holding. We're holding this level. I don't like this kind of price action, right? My target from this entry was VWAP. We didn't get there. That's where we would have been a healthy pullback down, even to the point of control, right? That was a decent spot because it's the bottom half of this. Because we got this kind of wick, obviously a breakout above this candle is going to stop me out probably anyway at a high, so I'm not trying to take that kind of loss. Yes, I'm basically break even on the day to, down $70, but I'm happy with the executions that I'm taking and why I'm taking these, right? The failed breakout and the strong move to the downside, a move like that on a normal day would have possibly paid out pretty well to try and get that move to the downside, but we still have yet to get to the top end of the zone. This is now acting as a good support down here on this bottom half, right? It was resistance. Now it's support. Does it come back down again? And what happens then? So, I thought this was going to be the breakout point, but now it seems to be just acting as just like a chop area. We're not getting any decisions here. I got in here, and I got out. I was, let's see, move this. My delta divergence.
So my chief ass goes to ask. First I went to ask my wife, I said, "Who on top of blah blah blah," and everybody's buying booze. I'm like, I'm not buying booze, spraying it all over. And then the only beer that we have is Tecate, and they're like, I'll take. They put it on ice and everything. So we're shaking beer.
If you took that trade, let me know. If you can see the levels, let me know. Just type it in there. We're just really like Fridays, capital preservation, trying to keep what we got. If we gave ourselves a little bit more room on this stop, even though I can't justify doing that. I was trying to get a quick move off of a failed break. We didn't get it. So, getting stopped out on this one for a small loss, I'm cool with. Getting stopped out here, obviously that was the appropriate trail. Even if I wanted to trail it a couple more ticks, that's only $60 more. It really would have put me back at break even, but I wanted to let this thing breathe and give it above this candle, because if it did come back in and then rotate back down, we're going to get that move to VWAP, and that's really what we're at least looking to target there, to get to VWAP and beyond. Give ourselves a green day and then go from there. But right now we're in Chop City. Where the wicks on the S&P 30-minute candles just grabbing liquidity below, and we've kind of just ground to the upside a little bit. Same with the NASDAQ, that 30-minute, we've got wick. We didn't really quite break that 233 level. That's still a pretty key line in the sand. So we're just kind of waiting and seeing on what's going on here. That's the S&Ps there. You can see the S&Ps trying to push up and enter into this liquidity zone there. And we're now back on my 1 minute. There's the break above that zone. So let's see if we could break 33s. That's that point right there. Ticked it again. S&Ps are now pushing. There's the breakout. You see price speed up there. That is a key. That's a good breakout. If we don't hold this now, that would be the failed breakout roll over. So if we fail this candle here, I think we can go short. So that's why I'll set this order here. However, I'm not looking for that to ever get triggered, because if this breakout does happen, then it's going to rotate all the way back to that high. Then we're going to look for a delta divergence, kind of fade that overnight high. But the way price speeds up, the way the volume comes into this candle, you see that volume was able to come into this candle. This needs to hold to be a good breakout. It should never fail this ignition candle here, I don't think. I think if that fails, the way price is acting and it's above value area, if it re-accepts into the value here and then rotates back to the downside, I think we do have a good entry here for that short to just being a failed breakout. I think people trying to buy at these highs are going to get tricked to get into this long here. So I think a sharp move back down to the downside could occur right now. And the reason I fade this is because I know it happens to me all the time. I get tricked in, I catch that breakout at highs, and then I roll over and get stopped out, and then it rolls over on me. So I'm going to take the fade, the breakout, if it does happen. If it's a good breakout, it shouldn't come back and get me in. And based on the days, the way the day has been acting, it's been super, super rangy. So I think people getting long in a rangy day tend to get screwed. So that's why I want to take this short here and then see what happens from there. Like I said, that's the entry right there. I'm going to let it play out. If it triggers me in and just whips me out again, then so be it. But I think that's a good entry there. It should not break down that candle.
Yeah, so I got short 34s up there. You guys can see it, so you know I'm not lying. Because it hesitated. It was really heavy long. The longs keep getting paid. The market keeps creeping higher. So this is definitely one that paused up there after making a lot.
All right, we're in. If that's the failed breakout, then we should roll over this time. If it holds this little freaking trend line, then it's going to hold it and it's going to rip to the upside and we're going to get stopped out. But I have to take a shot like this because I've always gotten screwed on taking breakout trades. So that's why I tend to fade a breakout. This could be a liquidity grab here into the zone and then rip us back up and get us stopped out. Really, the stop has to be above here. 33s is the breakout point, so that's really where I have to have it safe. It is what it is if it stops me out, but maybe my entry was in a poor spot, like it being here. We're bouncing. Come on, roll over here on me. Can we get this failed breakout to play out on us? It seems like it's a chop city day. So for it to be like a breakout to blue skies, it seems like an unlikely. The easier trade would be to take the breakout and play it. So I'm taking the harder trade, and I'm going to hope that this thing fails and rolls to the downside. But now we're kind of like getting that delta to try and push up also while we're pushing up. So maybe not, Probably going to get stopped out here because breakouts like to play out when I don't play them. If the 30-minute can push us down below 212. The bottom of that, 212, 200. We're rolling. Took a little heat on it, but my entry seems to be a key point. It always seems to be. on where price is trying to decide to do something. I'm taking the risk on this. I accepted the risk, so now I just got to let it play. Let my thesis play out a bit. If we're going to make new all-time highs, we're going to make new all-time highs, and I'm going to get stopped out. That's not necessarily what this is here, right? All-time highs are up here, but I want to see this thing rotate back down again just based on the price action for the day. I would love to get it to VWAP. I want to flush the bottom of the zone that we have here. There's the breakdown. That's the breakdown there. Is that a liquidity grab? Get below here. We're trying to accept the risk. We're trying not to be too quick on this stop. I don't want to get ticked out and this thing fall off the table, right? But I also don't want that to be the bottom of the liquidity grab there and then it rips to the upside again, right? I want it to flush that 210, 212. 212 is the bottom of that 30-minute that I want it to kind of play with. I just want to move this to break even if I can crack the bottom here. I was able to withstand some heat, so you know what I'm going to do? If it does break above here, that's going to be the stop. So I'm limiting my risk to that extent. If I can get this thing to hold down here, then we should roll the VWAP. Get below here, get below there, get below there. Let's go. Come on. Flush down for me. You won't flush. You talk shit to it, maybe it'll do it, you know? You won't flush to the downside, you dick. There it is. That's going to be a whip. I'm out. All right, well, I got back $20. Well, you know, I'm really down 45 now. That wick told me it does not want to flush. That's why I watched the 1 minute. I didn't want to get stopped out for a full loss there. I'm thinking that this bottom half of this zone here looks like it wants to be the spot where people are going long. I took my short again around the similar area, looking to see if we can get the follow through below that 212. We don't get that follow through. We get that tick and that little bit of a whip up. It just kind of tells me that price action doesn't want to do what it is displaying. So if we come back here and then we get up to this area and then we roll back over, my stop is at 33s. Do I want to risk getting stopped out at 33s for a full loss when I can see that the price action is happening down here on the 1 minute and get my stop to break even, get myself out? So I would have been stopped for full loss. Instead, I took a grand total of $25 on that trade, right? So I got 2 trades, the last 2, where I trailed my stop right at the perfect time, right? I was like, you know what? This price action is not playing along with my thesis. I'm going to move it. I'm going to take risk off the table. As price moves in my direction, I'm taking risk off the table. I don't want to ever take a full loss. Usually the full loss is that, like, if I would have gotten price to continue on and take me out there, that's just me, on the first move, taking that full loss. But if my idea is sort of trying to play out a bit here, I'm going to try and enter again. Look at this divergence here. We tried to make new highs. Delta's not trying to make new highs. We're at the value area high. We got this here. I'm going to actually look to enter again. If I get another push down, I'm going to look to enter again. And if price tries to push through my level, I'm going to trail again until it breaks through this bottom. So this divergence here is telling me a little bit something. And I'm going to get that entry right there. My stop's going to be here. If it gets involved, it gets involved. But Delta is telling me that price does not want to go higher. Tilt a little heavy long, so we're going to look to see if we can get this last chance shot to the downside. It's 10 o'clock. Enough of those overnight players are getting out of the markets now. We're going to look see if there's profit taking going on for the weekend. This lack of a new high, we're pushing Delta divergence down. Tilt is getting a little heavier long, 63%. All right. New highs. We're looking to get to the new highs on the day. Didn't quite get there. Delta is pushing, but it's not playing along where it's getting to the high here. We got a wick there. Could look to potentially even get entry up higher, right? That could be your entry up here if you're looking to do that. Rotate back down into value and rotate back to the bottom of value. That's how I look at these levels. Dental below this candle here. Delta still not playing along. Price is pushing up. 70% long. If we crack this high here, Delta doesn't crack the high, look to see if price reaccepts into the value area high. The new highs on the day, no new highs on the Delta. Pushing up now. Wow, there we go. So it's an interesting Delta divergence there where we did crack these highs pretty well. This is not going to play out right here. So we're going to look to see what happens further, right? So sometimes price doesn't play along. Sometimes the Delta divergence doesn't give us the entry, right? Yes, we could fail from up here. However, we're a little bit far off from the level that would be for me to enter. That kind of push through. We're going to look to see now clean up this all-time high like I thought it was going to do at some point. Price does not like to be made new all-time highs in overnight sessions. So now we are congruent with our Delta. The Delta caught up a bit. So now we're kind of in a healthy up pressure. I think we need to get above this all-time high. I can't enter anything below it. And isn't that a this is the reason to get out of this trade, right? I mean, can't be any sort of mad about the way this trade played out. Either any of these trades, right? Enter, maybe this one I got in a bit early, but the rest of them where I was up 100, up 60, up 25, you're limiting your risk because you could see how price action is acting at the base of a zone, right? If you don't get the full break, this one ended up looking like it was a liquidity grab, so I moved in and took the profits that it gave me. This one, same deal. I saw a failed breakout. I really wanted to enter up here. I don't know if I got slipped, but I kind of moved my stop down, my stop entry down a bit because I didn't want to get tickled in at the top of a volume node. So I moved it down a little bit. Possibly could have moved it here and then trailed a bit tighter on that push down to the bottom here of 212. But overall, managing these two, understanding what price action is telling me, as opposed to hoping that, okay, maybe it's just playing along. You can see the way price acts on this 1 minute. And based on my 30-minute levels, right, I'm looking at that 212 as, it needs to break because it's been holding, right? Sell, buy. Even buy here, right? So it's flipped to support at this point. So then seeing this, it needed to flush in order for this to even be worthwhile of holding. It didn't, and it held and ran. So this could have flipped you long even too to get to that overnight high. I didn't take that long. Like I said, I just didn't believe a breakout. The way it was breaking out, it was acting kind of crappy. Yeah, Microsoft bounced. It's interesting. Still not, still pushing. Apple. Meta. Oh, Meta looks like it wants to break out. Apple is just kind of fading on it. And then Microsoft's trying to push to the it's holding this little range that we're in here. That pre-market breakout spot has not played out as well. So I'm not a momentum breakout person, right? Probably because this is where I would always take my momentum breakouts. Maybe I'm one candle too early, one breakout too early most of the time because I'll end up seeing this happen. The failed breakout roll over. So this second time trying to break out looks like it is, and there we go. We cleared out that all-time high, and now we are going to look to see if we can get any sort of delta divergence on this to try and get maybe one more good trade for the day, fade the extreme. Like I explained in the pre-market and kind of like in the earliest on part of this session, markets don't like to make overnight highs all-time highs during the overnight. You know, if it makes an all-time high during the overnight and it rotates back down into the range and it's still like at an area where it seems like it's an attainable number, a lot of times it tends to clean up that number, right? And now that since we're at these, blue sky breakout levels, I have no levels, I have no targets other than that 600 fib extension, or there was like 517, which is all the way up here. So I'm more of a wait and see what price action is going to tell me kind of guy. And on a Friday, where not that I've been chopped, I've just been quick to get out on certain attempts that I know are going to fail. So, being down $45 to me is a scratch kind of day for a Friday. I'm not trying to overtrade it. I do want to take another one, maybe an A+ type setup. If this can give me a wick here, come back into this liquidity, try and whip this, and then give me a divergence and a heavy tilt, then maybe. But it's very difficult for me to get that, I have no desire to buy all-time highs, but I also have no desire to sell them right away either. The S&Ps haven't got to the overnight highs yet, so look to see if they'll catch up or if they'll fail first. Here's the S&Ps on the 30; they are sitting there, and on the Nasdaq we have broke them. That's the 30-minute, right? So that's a strong. You see these wicks, wick, building up. Same on the S&Ps, wick, building up, but we haven't quite made that high yet on the S&Ps. That was an interesting grab. Now we're back at that all-time, that overnight high. Got a business email that I needed to read through quick. Pretty excited about that. It's going to be a cool opportunity for me and everybody out here. I'm going to try and spread the news on it soon once my tests are all done. So it's going to be pretty cool. Tradecaster next week. All the new traders are going to be out here on the 22nd. So come out to Tradecaster. Check it out. If you're on YouTube, if you're in Tradecaster already, it's going to be a really cool opportunity to have a bunch of new streamers out here to give you a look at how some new people do things, and including myself. Right, I've been on here for the last week, almost 2 weeks now, just kind of making sure everything works correctly for the official launch. I know Dex said he's not going to be streaming because he's got his little snow trip coming up for next week, so gives us new streamers a little opportunity to see if his guys want to come over here, maybe learn some futures while he's on the mountains. So, kind come check out this future stream. If you know anybody else that is in TradeCaster that normally watches Dick, I know he's stocks guys, option guys, but you can learn a few things from the futures market that kind of goes into your stock. And I also I use some of these large cap guys to help me out. So Microsoft, like I said, is pushing up, helping this continue to rally. Apple also pushing up. Google rallying. Nvidia. I don't like to short these crazy highs, but everything's pushing. Delta divergence, Delta pushing down, price pushing up. Can I get a little bit higher up here and then rotate? I'm not looking for a huge move back to the downside, but I wouldn't hate a failure of the overnight high. So if we fail the overnight high here on a Delta divergence, then I'll take it. Right? You see that Delta? I'll take the short here if it does fail this overnight high again, just based on the Delta divergence. 62% long, not a crazy heavy tilt, but for me, I think I just want to get involved this first go around on a short, if it does play out for me. Although it seems like it should be a continuation here, obviously through the all-time highs. It just, something tells me about the day that it doesn't want to hold up here for too long. No new information has told me that this is like where it really wants to go. If we break to the high side, then I'll take this order off. Microsoft's still pushing up. Apple pushing to these highs. Didn't quite make new highs yet, but it's looking to try and push and break out. We broke these highs and we're nowhere near on Delta. So we don't have a confluence there. I mean, we don't have confluence in price and Delta. So this could be that false breakout again, looking to come back to the downside. However, Delta could catch up, right? This is just unknown territories. There's no levels to play except for this all-time high level. So I do like that divergence as far as a sell here. I'll try and pick the top. Just based on my Delta divergence, if we can crack below the overnight high, that green line there, then we're going to go to break even and kind of see what we do. I front ran it a little bit just based on that wick. I'm going to be tight with it quick. I want to get myself back to break even, and then hopefully if we can get through the overnight high and rotate down a bit, then I can take some profits on a Friday and call it. I like to trade till 11. Fridays, I like to be done as quickly as possible. So if I can get red to green, I'll be done for the day. I do need this to get below this level here, though, because it's holding up a bit much with this Delta pushing to the downside. So I want this 255.50 level to crack. Need 255.50 to crack. Well, there we go. It's pushing back up again. Whippy above these highs. There are buyers down here. There are definitely buyers. Not that the price is speeding up or anything like that, but it is giving me an interesting look at potentially trying to crack above again. So I'm hoping that it does not. Once we break that 55, we are going to start trailing pretty tight. If we crack 55, realistically, we should roll over to the value area high of 240. But if we get down here, that's where my stop's going to go right to there as soon as we crack it. That's going to get me red to green. But it needs to crack, right? Just based on this price action, this is like a good setup for me. We're not at the key level is that all-time high there. I just don't have any good information telling me that price wants to be at all-time highs. Although people love to buy this, so.
come on, you got to push this level here. There we go. So we're gonna push this to the downside, limit our risk here. If we can get to 55s, I'm gonna go to break even now because I don't want this to pop off on me. I don't like all-time high breakdowns. It just doesn't want to play along with me. This could be the spot where it does now because I trailed out. Pussied out on that one, huh? It's just so hard to trust these all-time high breakout levels. This wick, I front ran it just to see if I could limit my risk to the upside, which I did. I limited it. I just didn't want to take a full loss on it. Obviously, that kind of shook me out of this. And there's that breakdown now. So, we would have been back red to green, and then our trail, would have just been free money to the downside. That was just kind of silly. Maybe I should have trailed it to this high there. That was a, perfect delta divergence. Got my entry below that candle. Nothing really should have shook me out. I just didn't appreciate this price action not playing along quick enough. So I moved to break even, and that, cost me at least the winner to 255. It is what it is. But we were also looking at originally at trying to get in below here. So we would have been ticked in and then expecting this full loss of 230, right? So we kind of saved ourselves that full loss by front running it and trailing tight. Like I said, Fridays I'm pretty tight just because I know historically I get run over a few times, and I don't really like to do that on a Friday. I would like to keep myself up 500 for the week, plus, right? So this little bit of, getting paper cutted around here a little bit, I don't mind it. I got my setup, I took it, I trailed it tight quick, and we got out. So that's just how it goes. And there's that push to the downside. We're failing the all-time high.
I just got long 2 lots from 17,255, and I did not do it. Well, hold on, I did not do it. It will not register in my live account because I'm doing it on paper. I'm showing you guys. Somebody said, why don't you practice? I'm going to put a 2 lot on with a 10 handle stop on paper. Sure, I might miss the trade, but
No, this is good. That was an excellent idea as far as the divergence is concerned. So it's good to know that our divergences still play out, right? Our delta pushed to the high side, our price pushed way up, and our delta did not come anywhere near it, right? So getting that entry was a good idea. Looking for the flush of the high also was a good idea. We just didn't quite, execute as far as waiting for one more candle just based on the price action. Fine by me, would have been up a little tiny bit red to green on the day. Now we grab some liquidity. Could we push up again to the high side? Let's see if we get if we get a lower high and then start to rotate back down, take the flush to 255, because a lot of times we'll get this push to the high side, a wick of the high, then a third lower high, and then I usually get that rollover. That tends to work out for me as well. So if we do get a failed high here where we don't quite make it to this level here, if we don't quite make it to this level and break that out, then look to see if it fades, 263, 264, that level there. If it fails that, you get a little wick above this standard deviation from VWAP, then you can look to see maybe this will fail and roll down. And if it does break 55 again, the third time could be the charm on the breakdown. But if you break through 265 again, then there's a chance that it's going to continue to run. But see, so there you got that wick. I'm going to take the trade just because I talked it out and explained to the reasoning why I'm thinking that that's the move. I have the set up there, right? And I'm looking for the breakdown of the level. I'm not looking for playing in the middle here, front running it and catching the extra little bit. Although, yes, that'd be fantastic if I could get in here. But I don't get the whole fail and momentum push to the downside if I enter up here, right? So we're getting that lower high. If we get that lower high and this breaks down just like how we were getting here, we were getting higher highs, but the stop was still at the same spot, right? So I'm looking for this to not break that 65. It looks like it wants to. So if I would have entered early, I would have been probably close to getting stopped out already. I would have moved my stop up there if I got it even. And you just got to keep planning out what your trades are doing, right? So if it's going to break here, it wants to break out and go higher. If it doesn't, if it continues to give you a lower high, then you're going to get that rollover, and hopefully the momentum will carry you through back to the downside, back to maybe the overnight high, the value area high, and even, if we're lucky, all the way down. But that's just kind of how I'm thinking this through. 30 ticks is only risking $150. So I'm risking the 30 ticks there because if it doesn't fade right away, and if it breaks this candle again, it's gonna break out, and then you're gonna get stopped at the high anyway. But right now, it doesn't look like it wants to play along quite yet. Delta's trying to push up. Price is pushing up a little. We're all like 50-50 on the tilt, so nothing crazy on the tilt. When we get to all-time highs, some of the rules don't apply. It kind of just does what it wants. There's a hard flush to the downside. That was a very whippy move there. Let's see if that continues like as a volume sell or if it's a liquidity grab. Could that be a liquidity grab? A little grab below there. If I get stopped out because of it, if it tickles me in and gets out, then it is what it is. But I think that this could be that momentum push to the downside here. That third time's the charm, breaking the level and carrying on. If we break that low, then hopefully we can get all the way down. So I'm going to try my best to not move this stop too quickly if it does trigger me in. It'll be my, the reason I say I'm only risking 150 on it. I'm not trying to get back a full week on one trade. So give me a rollover now, and then you got a decent day, right? If you can get that rollover to break below that 248, then you should rotate back down to the 40s, and we'll have a free trade on if we get to the bottom, because I'm going to put it to break even if we do get to the bottom there, and just see if it plays out. Have a thesis, have a reason for why you take an idea. If I get stopped out on this, I get stopped out on it. It is what it is. I risked 150. I accepted that I risked 150 on it, but I had an idea and I had a reason behind it. And usually I'm thinking that third touch of that level, a failure of it, could be the time it wants to flush. And if it's not the time it wants to flush, then it's probably going to go to all-time highs, and I'm going to get stopped out anyway. So I'm going to limit my risk on the point side. Also, if it breaks through this kind of candle here, this strong candle push up, then it's probably going to want to push up further again. So we are stuck right here. 10:30. There we go. Can we push down now? 255.50. 255.50. We're going to go down to 42.50. That's the first target. 42.50 is the first target. Price is kind of jumping around right here. Do we get that breakdown or not? Now, it looked like kind of a liquidity grab there. It could push up again now and break us out. 17 seconds left on this candle. I usually, like I said, I don't like to enter on 30-minute candle closes, but this one, it's just we're at a level. We got a divergence. We got what we wanted on it. The flush down to the downside is what I was really looking to get. Risk to reward was there. So I took the trade. Do we get the breakdown now? This is a new 30-minute candle. Trying to hold 55. If it holds 55, then we probably break out. But could we roll down to 42s? 42s is the first target. If we break this low here, then I can move to break even. I just want to break the low, and then I'll have no risk on the trade because that gets me 1-to-1. I need to break 250. We're at 250. It needs to hold below 250 for me to move it. hold below 250. Nope, my stop is going to be above 259. So I limit my risk a little bit there. I don't want to be breaking out above that because then I'm probably going to go to highs with this kind of liquidity grab type deal. I'm going to put a take profit down here just in case it decides to flush and then really come take me out. I don't want to miss that on a crazy liquidity grab push to the downside. We look like we're trying to grab this and run to the upside, right? It seems like more and more buyers want to get involved here, but it's not flushing the way I thought it was going to flush yet. That 250 level was pretty strong. So if we can get through 252, 250, right? That's that spot. It needs to crack 250, but it doesn't want to play. Doesn't want to play. Come on, baby. And we're stopped. Took a small loss there, but I figured if it breaks this level here, it's going to want to break out more. So, like I said, I'm not trying to lose a ton of money on a day like today. Down about $130, less than a full loss, which is fine by me. On a Friday, like I said, I tend to get chopped on a Friday. I'm not trying to do that today. Talking these trades out live with you, giving me an idea of what should happen as opposed to what is happening. We are still getting that divergence, still looking to try and get it. It's really that 50 level that wants to break. Can we do it? I might enter one more time if we get that flush. I just, for something telling me that this wants to continue to push down. So I'm going to enter that. I have my entry there again. I'm still risking just 150 on this. Because if I risk 150 down, if we get that good flush, then it's worth my risk to reward every time. If it runs me over, it runs me over. So I'm wrong quick on this, right? That was a great liquidity grab by them. I'm fighting the trend. The strong moves to the downside, though, it's sort of just... It's convincing me to try and get that trade to get that rollover, right, from this all-time high. Not picking tops, but really just trying to understand how the market's thinking. Why would it be at all-time highs right now, other than a Taiwan chip AI maker having a positive outlook on the market? Doesn't give me enough conviction to say that we want to be at all-time highs. And that's why I keep taking this. Apple still just kind of holding here, not quite following through. So if Apple doesn't follow through, then could we get the rollover that we want to see? Potentially. It's got to get through 50 though, right? 50 seems to be that wick bottom where liquidity is being grabbed up. Damn it. Grabbing that liquidity right there, man. It's just tightening up, tightening up, tightening up. A lot of times with this tightening up, you do get that unwind to the upside where it's going to be a pretty strong push. So I don't want to be caught with my pants down with a wider stop, right? Like that's why I'm willing to take these kind of like paper cuts, because when it does unwind, if it unwinds to the downside, it'll unwind to the downside. That whip to the upside, it happens, and I'm cool with taking that quick loss on it. But if we can unwind to the downside of this wedge, then I'll be a pretty happy camper. Like I said, first target would be 42, and ultimately I would like to be down. VWAP is always the target, right? Bottom of here. I'm going to try and be patient on it. If it gets through 50s, then it shouldn't come back. So there we are. We're through 50s. There we go. We're down through 50s. Now we're trying to flush. This is why you take the shot at it. 42s. All right. So we're at 1-to-1. We're covered our risk. So now we're going to see if we can get this complete follow through to the downside. Should get sellers to pile in. If we re-accept into the value area, we did tickle that value area high. We should re-accept into the value area high now. All right, re-accepting into the value area high. Now we should rotate back down. If we do get the follow through that we're looking for, if sellers do come play along, I think they wanted to. I'll be above value area high now. That would be my stop there. I'm taking my day red to green, so now everything is beautiful. Life is beautiful on a Friday. If you can get that flush to the downside, you get that rotation all the way through, hit off on VWAP. That would be the ultimate take profit there. But, we're going to probably get stopped out just above value area because that's what we do. We go red to green, up $80. Can't say no to that. Realistically, we probably will get the full rollover here. But like I said, on a Friday, if I can go red to green, that's a great day for me. Even though it was a small red, I was down 130 at the highest, I think, or maybe, something like that. To be up $80, realistically, after fees, up, $50. The last few days of trading, I've been pretty much break even type days. This acceptance into the value area should rotate us back down. I'm trailed out, right? This kind of wick, I'm okay with getting trailed out if it's above value area high to bring me to, a red to green. It's also, I should maybe have my stop just above this candle here, which really, maybe I still would have got stopped out anyway. So, can't go wrong with that. But that rotation down, once you get that break out of the wedge, all-time highs, delta divergence, people getting tilty to the long side. I took a few shots at it, break even, one small loss, and then you risk that 150. You risk 150 to make 300. That's a 2-to-1. I took off 220 on the trade, so I'll take that. As far as a reason to get out, is it breaking back above that value area, volume profile value? I want to see it rotate down now that it has cleared out that overnight high. We do have another 30 minutes left in this trading day. To go red to green, I need an AA plus, setup. And being at these, only information I have is from the overnight session and today's session. It is difficult to try and find an A plus type deal, but for me, realistically, that was the setup. That's where I should take that. This one, if I would have caught that this morning, we wouldn't even be talking right now. I'd probably be done, walked off, but this should kind of continue to the downside at this point, just based on the dates, the type of day it is. Nothing here. No data tells us that there's a reason to be at all-time highs and beyond. No U.S. data, just a chip company guiding higher, with AI stuff kind of just being the reason for this to just pop like that. I don't see that as convincing all-time high reasoning. Apple never made that new high. Microsoft was sitting on bottoms and then popped out of the high. Now that's a failed breakout, looking to rotate back down to that 394 level potentially. So those are the types of things you got to look at, talk yourself through during your trades. Limit your risk on those losses so that when you do take your win, you can bring yourself back to green and then try and make that next trade. Like I said, first target was 42. I got out at 42s, but the ultimate target really was going to be VWAP or the bottom of this. This was that breakout point. So there's a lot of liquidity here. It was used as resistance, used as support. So technically, I think VWAP will get to that point at 212 when the price ends up getting there. So 212 would be that next target to the downside. The only thing I could have done possibly a little bit better on managing this is just leaving that at break even and then letting this, grind out to the downside a bit more. But like I said, if I was green and I had, a little bit more to risk on the day and it wasn't a Friday, maybe I would have, but understanding how your weeks go and how your days go and what days of the week you trade like shit and what days of the week you do all right, and do you give some back on the weekend, or I don't want to go into the weekend. I love trading, right? I look forward to Mondays. I don't look forward to the weekends. I don't want to just not have markets to analyze or anything. There's we get information and stuff, but I'm not able to execute. I'm not able to make money on the weekends. I'm not trading cryptos or Forex anymore. So these future markets give you opportunities every single day to make money. And, I don't want to come in on a Friday and give back my whole week. I was up $500. it's not a huge week, but it's not a bad week, and I'm not going to go out looking to give back that whole week when I know historically that's what I do on Fridays. I've had so many accounts. I'm telling you, funded accounts that I've been up, $1,000, and then I've come back and been down almost two for the weekend, and you just ruins your weekend. It gives you a shitty outlook on this kind of career. So just understanding what you can do on weeks and having a plan for your week, letting it play out. Like I say, I draw up my analysis every week, every Saturday. I go out, or every Sunday, I should say, after work. I come home, I look at my charts, I type up this kind of information here. I go through what could happen during the week. I analyze the previous week. I show like what I could have done on a Monday when it was a shortened holiday day. This is a sim trade. I wasn't actually trading. I didn't stream. I didn't do anything. But this is just analyzing things, seeing how things are playing out. I go through my charts. I'll give you levels. Then I'll go through some new stuff, and I break down the market and try to have a plan during the week. And if you have that kind of plan, then you have the ability to work off that plan and then make some decisions based on good information instead of just guessing. I'm able to come down on the 1 minute because I use the broad scale, but execute on the 1 minute and see sort of market behavior without having my level twos. Even with level twos, I'm on the 1 minute. I could see the price action speed up, slow down, consolidate, manipulate. I'm looking for stop runs. I'm looking for tilty behavior. And if there's no reason right here to break out to new all-time highs, then no information, even down here, there was no information telling me that all-time highs needed to be had. This idea, though, I said we could clear out this overnight high, all-time high, because markets don't like to do that. So having that, plan, maybe a long down here up into the overnight high just to clear it out, not based on market fundamentals, but based on pure price action and behavior of what markets in the open session like to do to the markets from the overnight, and cleaning up inventories and trying to make this an efficient market, right? So they're going to clear this out. Now, whatever they do now, all these orders, everything that happened from here to here before market opened has been cleaned up, right? Those orders have either been bought or sold. We got rid of all of this, and now we're retracing back through it, right? So now whatever happened here to here, we have this close down here. This still needs to kind of get cleaned up. So thought processes here is now what happened as far as the data is concerned. What pushes us back in here? This doesn't need to get cleaned up as fast because we needed to get rid of all-time highs first. So now that we got rid of all-time highs, I was talking about this earlier on in the stream. If I had to pick one or the other, what was going to get cleaned up, it was going to be the all-time high just based on the data that we got. So now that we got that, the market could do whatever it wants. We do want to clean up that stuff. I don't know if we're going to clean it up today. I think Friday's markets like to trend. We could make all-time highs again now, but now it's going to be on the open market, participant terms and not on the overnight. So let's see what happens with the rest of the day. If I was to have trailed this the same, my trailing rules as far as like a regular day, I'm probably going to get stopped out at the same exact point. So unless I saw this divergence here where I got a push down to the top of this zone and maybe trailed to above the breakout point, I would have made another couple of $200. But I didn't see this as the trail here. So this would have ended up in, you want to hold the value area high because you want the price to stay in where the price has been the longest. And if it can't stay in here, then you're probably going to get trailed out. So honestly, that first trail getting stopped out there, just saved me some emotional headache of giving back 200 more bucks. Maybe I would have trailed to here, been up 100 more. But realistically, I wanted to see price get to 212. I didn't want to give back anything more than I took. I had 240, risking 150, a little more than 1 to 1, 1.5 to 1. can't be mad at that, right? So that trail right there was probably the most appropriate trail because either way, if I trailed it there early or trailed it there as price approached my next target point, I would have been trailed out at the same spot. So now we're looking to see what kind of level will develop, right? It does seem to be that spot is a good spot for price action to continue, but realistically, the stop was in the right spot, would have been stopped out anyway. So yeah, you just gotta look to see if you can get one more entry. 11 o'clock is the end of the stream. Every day, starting next week, we will definitely be live every single day, Monday through Friday in the morning. I got no holidays next week. I got no overtimes scheduled. So every day on Tradecaster, I'll be over there. 8:30 is the open of the market Central Time. I'll try on Monday to be on slightly earlier just to kind of go over my weekly plan. Maybe I have to drop my son off at school. He's got to be there by a little, just after 8 o'clock. So if I get on the charts by 8:15, kind of go quickly over my weekly breakdown. If I can't do that, I'm going to look to post it to YouTube. I'll record how I go about it. I'll post it on YouTube. It'll sort of be an educational way on how you can go about doing it yourself and then also get the access. So I'll post the YouTube link in Tradecaster in the alerts. So you can go over to YouTube, watch the weekly analysis video. I'll pull up my chart. I'll pull up my Word document, and I'll just break it down there. If you don't actually actively journal, you can use that document as a journal. Google Docs is free. You don't have to use any of those expensive softwares. Those softwares do work well. You can see it visually, and you can get your statistics. But if you don't have that money, there's no need to go out and spend it. Go on Google Docs. It's free. Type up your trades for the week. Type up your plan. Just break it down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then just set your trades. It'll kind of keep you a little bit in tune with what you're doing. I don't actively journal each and every single trade because I'm recording them. So this recording is acting as my journal. But then I also do have my weekly analysis, and I do type stuff in there that I do think is important. So it's just up to you to do little things that help your trading and get better, right? I do not want to enter here. Get rid of this trend line. We are accepting into this value zone. If we're looking at the charts here, Microsoft is trying to hold that little pullback. Apple still pulling back, but you got a long wicking tail there. Google, GOOG, bouncing as well. Nvidia at its highs, wicked the highs, and kind of just basing out up here, but it does look like it wants to roll over a little bit. Something tells me that. I don't know why. We got no news on it. What's AMD doing? Not that it matters. AMD rolling over a bit, so maybe it's dragging it some. Microsoft has been sort of the leader of the past week, so it is pushing up. We did push those all-time highs. The point of control is still 219 on the daily, but over here it's 205. So the value hasn't really flipped yet. As I mentioned, I do have the VWAP here. If you look at these little VWAPs here, this is like the weekly VWAP. I said if we could reject the overnight high, we could and then the all-time high, if we can push back down below this all-time high, at least that first standard deviation would be a target, which is also around that value area high from yesterday. If some of these names do start to fall over, like Deck is talking about, that the NVIDIA and SPX are looking to kind of crack their trend lines and push back to the downside. I did show you that NVIDIA did have that little weakness look to it, right? We wicked that high. That was a very strong wick off high, cleared out a lot of the inventory from that pre-market session. We're kind of grinding a bit. If we can break down on NVIDIA is it's a chip maker. It's all involved in that AI, hoopla and everything. when it comes to if that's what's leading the market to the upside, and this is the chip that's gonna save the world or whatever, if that's the one that fails, then you could expect that the S&Ps and especially the Nasdaq, since this is what's heavily weighted in the Nasdaq, it's gonna fail as well. But right now it looks like it's grabbed some liquidity and pushing to the upside. If you can clear out this wick, then you can look for some steady buying to keep coming in. I don't have any key levels on it right now. It's at some highs, so Nasdaq probably will be following there, pushing that up to the upside. So just kind of keep all these things in mind when you are actively trading, that you do need to keep the stocks that are heavily weighted in this index in your view. Just because people will say what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but realistically they both kind of work off of each other. It's not one thing or the other. I think they do play off of each other a lot. The futures is not directly related to the spot price, so it's a future outlook on some of these things. But if you can see Nvidia popping off, and if you can see Microsoft starting to push off of lows, and you can see Apple rotating back to the high side, then you're going to see the NQ, like it is over here, this is a 30-minute, it's going to be pushing to the upside, right? Pushing to the upside, looking to come back to that all-time high and see what it does there. Top step, I got $50 here, $50 there. It'll add up. Those aren't losing days. They were, and then they turn into winning days. I'm still 8 minutes left in the stream. If we can get a wick off of this high here, maybe we can get another entry to take it to the downside. Oh man, price moving up. What's the Big Seven doing? Apple kind of just sitting there. Microsoft still pushing up on that rally. Nvidia is going to be my key here. Look at that breakout of the high. I don't know where it's got to go, but it's got room to run today. If it clears out this the overnight, the pre-market high of 584.75. You look to see what happens there. Could wick it off, but it did. It gapped up this morning and then opened and rolled right over, cleared the gap, and then now rotated back to the highs. Pre-market high 584.7276. Obviously, Nasdaq is pushing up. Delete that. This obviously played out pretty good here. What I like to do when these levels hold, I'll turn them into rays and I'll use them in the future. So that's why you see some of these old ones. They're levels that I found on a daily basis become very useful levels, and then I will just push them across forever to the right so that next time when we do get to that level, I'll know, okay, there was a lot of confluence at that level in the past. Let's see where it acts, and if it doesn't act good, like moving forward in the future, I'll delete it and move on from it. But here we go, pushing back above that high. See if we can make new all-time highs, fresh highs on the day. If not, look to see if we can get a rejection, a delta divergence, and maybe a rollover. But we're going to see what happens there. Oh, where'd it go? I lost it. There we go. Failed that high, the Nvidia trade. So if Nvidia breaks down below 582.51 and starts to roll over, then you might get that confluence to take your short in NASDAQ once again. So 5 minutes left in the half hour, in the hourly. A lot of things going on today. It's a Friday. Things start to get slow, but also a lot of momentum days on Fridays tend to keep going. So it also gives me a hesitancy on trying to short this high. second time. You know, it played out once. I don't know if it'll play out again, especially with some of these market big time players pushing up to their highs like Nvidia. But Microsoft now pushing down to the downside. Apple not making new highs, not quite there. So Nvidia being the leader on the day, pushing to the upside, kind of holding this market up. And if it does fail, then the rest of the market's going down with it. If we try again to kind of run up and get a similar deal that we had here, that failure, that rotation back to the downside could play out. And I would love to see NVIDIA play along. If NVIDIA can play along, then you can get a nice little confluence here and roll over. 4 minutes left in the stream. I think it's going to happen right now? Probably not. There's a good chance that this just continues on and rallies to the upside. Like Apple and Microsoft were pushing down, but that could just be grabs of liquidity to push back to the upside. All these wicks to the bottom on the 30-minute have been bought up pretty much all day. So nothing tells me that 11 o'clock is going to change anything about that. Maybe for close, you might get some profit taking due to this kind of rally. So look for, around that, power hour time for price to either a whip off, you might get that jubilation blow off top today, and then that could be the key for Monday to start our selling pressure to come back. So yes, you could get your sell-off at the end of the day if this market keeps rallying, on profit taking. But this long wick tail on this 30-minute candle, just, every 30-minute candle has been pushed down and then bought right back up. So tells us that buying pressure is still involved. NVIDIA is making brand new highs. NVIDIA is making brand new highs on the day. Microsoft is now pushing back up a little bit, holding its bottom. Apple is pushing, trying to break out, trying to get to the highs. And Google was also pushing, right? Google is not. Google is, getting a little secondary push to the upside. So NVIDIA leading us to the upside, making new highs, pushing this market up, and then kind of dragging everything else along with it, right? Chips are hot. Chips are what's in. AI, and what drives AI is the chipsets and then the companies that run them. So if we do get a push of the high here, I don't know how high it can go, but nobody does. So that's kind of just how it works out once you're in these all-time high territories. And for me, going from red on the day, like I said, I was small red. I lost 50, 150. I was down max 130, 180 at some point. Somebody can correct me if they know better. Then you take that one back where you're. I took a $100 winner, so I was down $80, and then I took a $25 winner, and I was down 50, and then I took a 10, and then I was like break even, and then I risked 150, and I took down 150, made that 220 back, and now I'm up 80. Minus fees. I'll take a $50 day on a Friday. We're up 50. Yeah, we're up $55 on the day. I didn't give any back. I managed my risks, managed my expectations. I trailed out as per my plan. Right, 42s were my first target. Trailed to it. Couldn't ask for much better. If it was going to keep flushing down, it wouldn't have stopped me out. It flushed to the next, quasi target, the top end of that zone, and then it rallied off that zone. So no matter what, we executed trades the right way. We played around with levels. We limited our risk, and then we got to the point where we were able to make a trade that would get us back to green. If the first trade of the day, if we would have took it, you're done for the day, and you don't have to worry about trying to battle with the zones and make these trades and look for it. But we're out here every day from 8:30 to 11. If you are interested in helping me grow, keep me around, tell your friends, share me out in Tradecaster, share me out on YouTube, come hang out, say what's up. I do have a day job, so that's why I do 8:30 to 11. Tuesdays and Wednesdays I am off most of the time, so I try to do some afternoon streams. So next week, since it is on my schedule, I will come on unless I'm like up big or down to a point where I just don't think that trading in the afternoon is worth it. I will explain that in the morning session, but I'll try to trade the close on Tuesdays and Wednesdays starting next week. Pretty much, I'm very close to finalizing some stuff with my business on the other side. So getting off at 11, focusing on that, hammering out some stuff. Then next week I won't necessarily need to work on those things at the close. I can focus out more on the streaming and then hopefully be able to share that new venture with you guys. If you head over to Instagram, follow me, Policing Pips, YouTube, Policing Pips, Tradecaster, Policing Pips. Really nothing doing right now. I'm not going to take any more trades, I don't think, here. It's 11 o'clock on the nose. We got NVIDIA still green sky highs. NVIDIA, Microsoft, kind of just wedging out. Apple, trying to push that all-time the high of the day. So if Apple breaks that high of the day and NVIDIA plays along, then you're going to continue that momentum on the NASDAQ. Doesn't really matter if Microsoft's kind of being the laggard or Google is not making new highs. It's still pushing up. It's still green on the day. AMD also trying to push the highs, so it's kind of carrying along. What's Soxel doing? That's the whole semiconductor ETF, so it's pushing up as well. So really, the AI sector is holding up the markets today. So really, just watch out. If you're going to keep trading for the day, watch NVIDIA, see if it gives a pullback at all. If it does, then you might get that bigger pullback on the NASDAQ because it's not following along quite exactly, but if it does, then it'll roll over. If Apple breaks out, then you're going to also get that confluence to get the NASDAQ to give you that further breakout. If it fails to break out and rolls over and NVIDIA also follows along, and you can start to see Microsoft back down to its lows, then your NASDAQ trade probably could rotate back down further. But until then, it's a Friday. It's been grinding to the upside. Nothing else is saying, hey, short, or nothing else is telling me that it's going to go long either, really. So expect it to be a little bit of a grind, but also a grind to the upside. All these 30-minute candles have been pushed down and bid right back up, right? 30 minutes, wick, push up, wick down, pushed up, wick down, pushed up. Slightly wick down was a bigger, stronger body candle, broke that high. Then we wick down below it, pushed up again, and now we're into that territory where we can just continue to push up to the upside. Yes, it's slowed down, but it's lunchtime on a Friday, so you might get that slowdown here again. But any sort of dips have been bid back up, so just be careful of that if you're looking to short. Everything else, I am done for the week. We had another green week. We are green, technically green 3 out of 3 days. I was, let's see, we'll pull it up over here. The only loss I took was last week on a Friday, and my power went out. So really, we were up 435 on Tuesday, 55 on Wednesday. Did not trade yesterday, and we're up 55 today. So, a nice little, just about $600 a week. Look to grow on that next week. Maybe we could double it up. There are days, right? Like if I would have took the trade here, been up $1,000, if we can slowly grind out, keep those red days pretty small, keep them under 1 or 2 losses, and keep the break-even days as small greens, small losses. $50 up, $50 down. I'll take those as break-even days all day. And then you're going to have those days where you're going to make that $500 trade, that $1,000 trade, and maybe 1 or 2 of them in a day, and that's how your account grows. If you're steady and you keep those losses and those break-even days and those small winners, you got to keep those. You got to just avoid. There's 4 types of trades. There's big wins, small losses, and big losses. If you eliminate the big loss day or the big loss one trade and you keep the rest of them there, the big wins are going to outweigh your small win, small loss, break even, right? That is going to keep your account growing, right? So if you could eliminate the big loss, if that's the one thing that you can do, the one thing that you learn in this Tradecaster stream, in my YouTube stream, is I cut these losers, right? I'm cutting them at 150. I'm cutting them at 200. I'm taking these small paper cut losses, and I'm going to take a good win. That good win outweighs 2 or 3 of these small losses. So, yeah, my win percentage, really, I'm at 81% winning percentage right now, with that kind of mentality. So, yeah, even though I take some of these break even, those are counting as winners, if I'm more closer to 60% winner, that those bigger winners are going to way outweigh those small 150 paper cuts, right? Because I know this one was only 220. If I took the full win, it's 615. But really, if we get that full thing to play out, we get down to VWAP. That's an $800 trade. I'm risking 150. I'm not looking to hit home runs. That's not a home run. I'm not looking to get the crazy rotation to the downside. Yeah, would I like to happen? And when I do catch one of those, it's going to make up for some of these base hit days at 250. The $50 day, the $50 day, the $50 day. It makes up for that because if I can establish the good habits now, then the bigger trades are going to come. So if you don't have any questions, enjoy your weekend. Sunday, sometime during the weekend, start to look at your charts. Start to look at the news. What's up, Spy Roby? I'm just about to get off. I'm up. I went down a little bit, went red to green, so I'm happy for the week. Up $600 for the week. I'll take it. Not the biggest week, and it's still a green, so we're 2 for 2 in green week. Nvidia is absolutely pushing to the moon, but Microsoft there pushing to the downside. Nvidia does have room. 600 is not out of the realm of possibility for sure. Will it hit today? Who knows? But if you do get that pullback, watch it on your futures platforms, right? Because Nvidia has been holding us up. If Nvidia fails and the other things follow, like Apple and Microsoft, because Apple, I feel like it's being held up by Nvidia as well, and Microsoft also, it's made a lower high here. If these things start to roll over and Nvidia plays along, you might get this thing to roll over too. But I appreciate you stopping by, Spy Proby. I want you guys to enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you made some money this week. Like I said, we're 2 for 2 in green weeks on TradeCaster. This was a shortened week. I only got 3 trading days out of the 4 that were available. Green on all 3. Up 450, up 55, and up 55. So a $600 week. We ground them out. We limited our risks. We did proper risk management. We talked about how the fundamentals really played into what was going on, why we would rotate back to this all-time high, even with some mixed data numbers, and just kind of seeing where we're going to go next week. We're growing. We're building off each week. We've doubled our profits from the week before. So overall, up 875 over the past 2 weeks. We're going to look to grow that again next week. If you could get green days, turn them into green weeks, turn them into green months. That's how you stay profitable. It's a long journey, so like I said, I'm taking this account slow with you guys, and I think overall with all these trades, if you want to go back and review the YouTube, the stream at any point during the day or on the weekend, you can review today's, you can review any of them. I know TradeCaster only shows like the most recent one, but you could always go over to my YouTube. It's Policing Pips. You could find it. Go over there, review any of the trades that I took. Really, a lot of the downtime, I'm talking about the fundamentals. I'm talking about data numbers, so you can get some good value out of it. Sunday night, I'll do my write-up. I'll send that out on Sunday night, and then Monday morning, I'm either going to come on early and just kind of walk you through how I go about it, or I will send out a YouTube video kind of just breaking it down so people can go back and watch it just specifically, and then I'll go live at 8:30. So if nobody else got any questions, I'm going to see you guys Monday morning. 8:30 for sure, but I'm going to try and release that YouTube video maybe around 8 o'clock or 8:15 so people could go over how I go about writing up my weekly analysis and how I have a plan for the week, and then we can go from there, and build off of the last 2 weeks. So back-to-back green weeks, growing the TradeCaster slowly but steadily. We're going to grow this community, and hopefully sometime either next week or the week after, I'm going to release my business that hopefully gets people fueled up and ready for their trading days. So until next week, I'll talk to you all tomorrow or next week. Peace.